So I came across this really fascinating and, yeah, maybe a little bit crazy idea from a blog post. It all started with a writing prompt. Come up with a crazy business idea. And believe me, the author delivered.
At its heart, the whole thing boils down to this one wild question. Could a no-frills supermarket, kind of like the European chain Lidl, actually offer a solution for churches that keep splitting apart? It sounds totally out there, I know, but when you dig into the logic, it's surprisingly compelling. So let's unpack it. First things first, to really get the solution, you have to understand the problem the author is trying to solve. And it all starts in a place that might sound pretty familiar, a small town filled with lots of tiny, struggling churches.
So picture this, a small town in Ireland. And in that town, there's just one evangelical church. We're talking a really small group, maybe 20 people, and they're often just scraping by, needing financial help from bigger organizations just to keep the lights on. It's a simple, unified place to start.
But, as the author points out, that sense of unity, it almost never lasts. What tends to happen is that this one little church just breaks apart, or new churches pop up in the same small town, each one trying to cater to slightly different tastes.
Now, the reason they split is what's really key here. According to the author, it's almost never about the big core beliefs. Instead, the division comes from what they call secondary issues. You know, stuff like what style of music you prefer, which version of the Bible you read, or what you think about new theological trends.
And the result of all this? Well, it's kind of sad, really. You start with one church that's already having a hard time making ends meet. And after all the squabbling, you end up with 6 or 7 even smaller churches, all fighting over the same few people and resources, and every single one of them is struggling even more than the original one was.
Okay, so you've got this problem with communities dividing over what really amounts to personal preference. In response, the author proposes this pretty radical thought experiment.
And they're totally upfront about how wild this sounds. They frame the whole thing with this quote. So, this isn't some formal, serious business plan. It's really a creative exercise to get us thinking about unity and what's actually important. So here's the core of the idea. The little church is just a basic, standardized service. It gives you the essentials of worshiping together, but without all the specific styles or opinions that cause all the arguments. It's basically the value brand version of church.
And this is how it would actually work. You'd pay a small fee to get in, kind of like buying a movie ticket. Once you're inside, you get a very straightforward service. No bells, no whistles. You don't get to pick the music or the sermon topic, though you can give feedback. And for the big life events like weddings and funerals, there's a pastor on call.
Now, this is a really important point the author makes. This model is not meant to be a one-size-fits-all solution. It's for a very specific group of people.
See, the goal isn't to pretend all religious differences don't exist. It's about creating a common space, a central hub where a particular group can gather based on what they all share, while kind of checking their personal preferences at the door.
The author draws a pretty clear line here. This is designed for evangelicals who already agree on what are called core doctrines. It's not for people from other Christian traditions, like Roman Catholics or liberal Protestants, who would see those fundamentals differently. The whole point is to solve division within one specific theological family.
And this brings us to the absolute key, the central idea that makes this whole little church concept even possible. It's a complete rethinking of where you do the different parts of your spiritual life. The big idea is to basically split your faith life in two, your digital life and your local in-person community life. Use the internet for all the personal stuff, and you save the physical spaces for unity.
So here's what that looks like. The online world, that's your personal spiritual buffet. That's where you go to find the preachers you love, listen to the exact style of worship music that moves you, and do deep dives into whatever specific topics you're curious about. And the local church? Its job becomes really simple. It's just for the act of physically gathering with other people for a simple, unified service. That's it.
As the author wraps all of this up, they kind of pull the camera back. They zoom out from the practical nuts and bolts of a little church to the much bigger ideal that sparked the whole thing. And it really all comes down to this one simple, powerful line. The author's point is, if ultimate unity is the final goal anyway, maybe we should seriously rethink all the little earthly divisions we let get in the way. It's a reminder that the small preferences we fight so hard for right now might not be so important in the grand scheme of things.
So even though this whole thing started as a crazy business idea for churches, it leaves us with a much, much bigger question. In our world of hyper-personalization, what if we tried to apply this logic somewhere else? Do you think we could find more unity in politics, in our neighborhoods, if we used the digital world for our niche interests and saved our physical spaces for celebrating the core things we actually share?
It's definitely something to think about.